to today. I'm Eva Repkova, the chair of Commission for Women's Chess, and I'm very pleased that Chess24 and Norwegian Chess Federation are here with us, organizing this important discussion on human dignity and how to fight harassment in our chess community. And now I would like to ask our host, Ms. Kristine Marie Ganz, to proceed and to introduce our very special guest. Kristine, you need to unmute.
Yeah, I got that. You were just a bit quick for me. Oh, just hang on, sorry. Our very special guest, you're talking about Marco?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
I need to find it. I wasn't prepared for that because you said you'd do the hellos, so I'm sorry about that. Hang on.
Yes, I'm usually fast with greetings because I give the floor to people who have many important things to say, so I don't want...
Well, that sounds good.
Like Marco, and I would like to thank him again for joining us with his busy schedule. He's even at a tournament right now, as I understood. So nevertheless,
yes, I am.
Join us,
but I was very happy to join the panel because I think it's a very important matter for discussion.
Yeah, I do apologize. I'm having a bit of trouble finding the right bit of text. And as I said, I wasn't prepared for introducing him at this point. So I do apologize. And my email system is actually a bit unkind to me.
So this is actually a good point when we can wait a little bit more for people to join, because, you know, so for those who are just a couple of minutes late or something. So please take your time. Don't worry. We can wait.
I am taking my time. I don't have much choice. As I said, my email system is a bit mean to me. It keeps hiding my emails. This is a known problem for more than just me, I'm guessing. Let's see if I can't find it someplace else.
Maybe, Eva, you can introduce Marco?
Please.
Yeah, Marco is well known to our chess community because he is contributing on many levels as an arbiter. I had the opportunity to meet him for the first time in Italy, where he really was very helpful with showing us around. And so he showed first, I learned about his hospitality, you know, but then next I also learned about his many abilities in chess world, as I mentioned already, as an arbiter, but also he's a legal advisor to both FIDE and ECU. And he was kind enough to prepare a presentation to educate our chess community on what it means, you know, human dignity. And from there, we go to what it means to be harassed and how to prevent harassment, how to recognize it, and so on. So it seems like Kristine is ready now. Yes, she's smiling. So let's proceed.
I did find the email at the end there. It just had a very faulty headline. So I do apologize, as I said. I'm going to share with you a presentation now. Let's see. Let me know if you can't see this. It's not very advanced, but it'll do. Today's topic is an important one. It's important because it's something we rarely talk about, but that is a real problem, not only in the chess community, but in the world on a whole. Harassment of any kind is degrading, painful, and excluding. To willfully harass another human being it's a way to control another one, to belittle, to exert yourself at the cost of someone else. And this causes people who are exposed to harassment to shy away from that environment that they are being harassed in, which is natural. And that is not how we want our chess world to be. We want the chess community to be including and open, a meeting place where the battle is between wits, not between sexes or ethnicity or background or age. It should be an open place to be. And mostly it is, I think, mostly it is. But that doesn't mean we don't have some work to do. Harassment is also a difficult discussion to take because it touches on taboos. It is difficult because what constitutes harassment is not the same for everyone. There's also a cultural backdrop. What is harassment in Norway? What is harassment in Finland? What is harassment in Italy? It's different, it varies. But that doesn't mean that the fight isn't a one we should take and one we should unite about. It's just a matter of finding how to do it in more general terms. My job today is to talk a bit about harassment in a Norwegian perspective, in a Norwegian setting, as I've put up here. Let's see if I can't make this a bit more readable. There we are. Because our culture, the way our society is built up, is the backdrop to how we experience harassment, how we define harassment, and how we deal with harassment. So it's important. If I'm to use our world, our bit of the world as an example, I'm going to have to try and explain a bit about basically equality in Norway. Equality in Norway is not just between the sexes. Equality is regardless of physical, like if you have a disability, you have the same rights as everybody else and should be treated the same as everybody else. The same regarding what sex you have, of course, skin color, ethnicity, background, anything. Everybody has a right to be treated equal. And this is fundamental to us. If we are to see, because the simplest thing to put forward when talking about harassment in Norway is actually the sexes, because there's a lot of data on it. So I can, and equality between the sexes is equality on a whole, and thus also equality generally. So I'll put up this, equality in Norway. If you look at the UN's Gender Equality Index, we are among the most equal countries in the world. We are number 5 on the UN report that was put out in 2019 and going up. So if you see, when it comes to education, for example, about 95.4% of women have at least some secondary education, which is higher education, and that is actually a higher percentage than that of men. Labor force participation, how many of our women are actually working or participating in the labor force. For men, it's 67.2, and for women, it's 60.4, which is quite equal. And when it comes to seat in parliament, this was in 2019, so we've actually had to change the parliament, and I haven't had the time to check it out, but I know it went up, not down. 40% of our seats in parliament is sat on by women. So we are fairly equal. Men in Norway have mandatory paternity leave, as do women, of course, and the women's are longer, but they have mandatory, they have to take time off to be with their kids when they're small. And some flexibility there as well. For us, if we're going to see how we define harassment, we have to look at the law, because that's how our society defines it as a whole. And it's actually a bit, it's one of the quirks of Norway. We have a law that defines, which is against discrimination and harassment, but that doesn't cover harassment of the sexual nature. Sexual harassment is actually defined in our labor laws, and that says a lot about us. But that is a topic for another day. And that defines harassment as such: unwanted sexual attention with a purpose to offend, scare, show hostility, degrade, humiliate, or pester. So it's quite wide. And as I said, this is the definition of sexual harassment. The other laws I mentioned states that any sort of discrimination based on gender, sexuality, race, and the list is quite long, is actually illegal. You can't put one in front of the other or put one disadvantage to someone on that basis. It's not allowed. We don't have many cases on it though, because it doesn't happen all that much anymore, luckily. But if you look at this definition, you'll see that this is harassment with the intention to offend, scare, show hostility, degrade, humiliate, pester, which mean that in a sexual term, when we're talking about this, that where if you are being flirted with by somebody who won't stop when you ask them to, that is not defined as harassment. The Me Too discussion that started here in 2017, I think, really changed how we discuss this. And our laws are being amended to encompass this as well. And we are actually, one of the laws that are being changed quite soon is the definition of rape. We are now working on having a law of consent, which means that if you have sex with somebody without actual proper consent, it is considered rape. And that is something we haven't had before. So the shift has been quite large from 2017 to now, which is good, I think. But as we've talked about, harassment is not only sexual harassment, it's wider than that. And it should be in our community that any behavior that causes a player, regardless of who or why, to not want to be there is unwanted. We should have an including community in the chess world, and that we need to do some work about. We have to get some work done to change this, and it is difficult, as I said, because where is the line in the sand? How do you actually define when you're being harassed on that level? Because when you talk about what is defined in law, it's actually quite clear. You can see what is harassment and what is not, but is that enough? And the truth is, no. In Norway, we have a system for reporting harassment or unwanted behavior. It's a digital platform we have on our website. It's been up for about a year, so it's fairly new. And we have probably not been too good about letting people know that it exists. And as many of you know, we had a case in Norwegian media not long ago saying that the chess community is a toxic environment for women. That was mostly based on sexual harassment, I think, but on a whole. And as a consequence of this media case, that platform got a bit of attention, and the number of reports that was logged on it increased. The odd thing, though, is that none of them are about sexual harassment. Every single report we got on that platform that I talked about was about stuff like cheating in games and tournaments and stuff like that, which are important and need to be taken seriously. But still, it's not quite what we expected, because we thought of this media case as a good thing for us to be able to put a finger on a real problem and maybe get some reports to start being able to do something actively against actual cases, because that's a good way to start. To say, look, this happened, it's not acceptable, we're fixing it, we're dealing with it, and that's important. But we need to get the reports in to be able to do that bit. And we haven't got any. We got a phone call, though, I'll tell you that, from a local club who had, I would call that a minor incident. There was a woman who got patted on her butt, and I handled it locally in a good way. So we've had that, which is good, because that is not acceptable either. And just to drag you through what that platform does, when the reports come in, we have an elected committee that goes through them, and when needed, add in necessary competence that is lacking in that group. And that group is mostly women, 2 women, me and another one, and 1 man. They go through these reports. And they will conclude in the matters and give a recommendation for how this should be handled further on, and make sure that it happens. Any report we get through our platforms or in any other way, because they get logged in the same system if they're sent into us via email and such, it's just the platform makes it possible to be anonymous if you wish. And they are dealt with how they should be dealt with and in a good way. And we are taking them very seriously, I promise you that. The problem, though, is that harassment is not just that clear cut, as I've said. And something I've noticed when I started working in the chess community, I come from a political organization in Norway. And you'd think that being a woman in politics would be tough. And yes, it is, but mostly on social media, not internally, I must say. And the organization I come from have stated in their own internal laws that on every single board, on the electoral ballot, on every single committee, the chair women men have to be 50-50, have to be. There's no way around it, has to be. And when you're on the electoral ballot, like the mayor and the second in command there have to be one man, one woman. So if you choose a male mayor candidate, you have to have a woman on the next spot, or vice versa. So I come from that, where the members are 50-50 basically, to an organization that has 5% women. Those women are in a tough position of being front figures for all women in chess. That is hard because you want to actually be there to play chess. That is the main focus. That's why you're there. But you also have to answer for why there are not more women in chess. Why aren't we doing more for women in chess? Why do women start playing chess and leave? And that's actually, they're one of the ones who's staying. Leave them alone and let them play. And as an organization, we have to deal with this. I also noticed something that actually bothered me quite a bit. And that is the attitude that women don't belong in chess. Or not belong, they are welcome to play, but they can't be good chess players. I'll give you an example. I was in a meeting and one of the women in the committee I was on at that point made a statement. I'll see if I can find it here. The level of these trainers is really inadequate. If we have to use them, let them train the youngest girls. I'm going to put this into context because the youngest girls in this particular case are not 10-year-olds just starting to play. These are some of the best players we have. We are talking about like one of the 20 best women we have and up. So from number 10 to 20 maybe. And that statement from a woman says a lot about how women are not finding their place in our community. But is this harassment? Can this be logged on to our website in our platform to let us know about it so we can deal with it? For a lot of women experiencing this, they will probably think no, because it's not illegal. And nobody has been infringing on my freedoms. It's just that we aren't being given the best trainers if we are at that level. There's no money for us to go to tournaments and stuff outside of where we live because the focus is on the boys. And that is a truth of sort because we have a lot of funds and stuff you can actually apply for money for if you want to participate in other stuff. And we have, sorry, my son, it's a Saturday. So there is some, and we are currently doing a lot where we have clubs that are focusing especially on having girls' nights, where they're only female players, and those are proving to be very popular. They are getting a lot of recruitment through this, and that is excellent. But they should be as happy to play with the boys and not just by themselves. So things are changing. But we have to do something about the attitudes. And for us, the next step for us now, one is to actually make sure that platform I talked about is really visible and people know about it and use it for the smallest thing to the biggest things. But we are also going through the process of having an attitude campaign, as it was, an awareness program, like posters and such. We are putting up on our biggest national tournament, which is coming up now in July, in connection to our own local congress. So we're doing that, and the welcoming speech for the Congress will have something about this in it. We are also now putting together a curriculum, it's called in English. I think the FIDE word is syllabus, for a course on awareness and what is harassment, how to deal with it. That is being given to our club leaders, our trainers, and other key personnel. Will have to go through this, basically to do something about the attitudes and to say this is not okay as a start. And unfortunately, attitudes take time to change, but we are working on it. And I don't think what I've described, apart from normal harassment, this women's place in chess thing needs to be dealt with. I think that was all I had, and I completely forgot to change my slides. I do apologize. This is my the steps taken for my digital platform, as you can see, report, committee, and action, and the awareness campaign that we are doing. So I do apologize. As I said, I'm much more of a talker than a presenter. I do apologize. So, but thank you. Next up was Marco, I believe, Eva.
Yes. Yes, Kristine, thank you very much for this really nice, I would say, eye-opening presentation. And I must say that we, throughout our work, we came to the presented very nicely. And this is exactly the point, you know, what women are facing, and what we need to change is the attitude, you know. And many times we also, I would add to your presentation also one more point which we face. I call it like mansplaining, when men are coming to us and without checking what has been done, what we are actually doing, without deeply interested in our work, they randomly give us some suggestions, you know, how to, you know, they already have some magic formula, some of them, to make it 50-50, you know, participation in chess. So this is something happening sometimes, not always, but, you know, and I must say that it does not happen that women do the same, you know. I have never faced that a woman came to us and, you know, with random suggestions. And our commission is open to communication. We regularly meet with people when they request to discuss different topics, issues, and we are happy when people give us good suggestions. We are open to ideas and we want to implement those which are good, but then that must be based on real analysis, and what we are doing must be recognized and somehow taken into consideration. Yes, so then we can start this discussion.
Yeah.
So
I do agree with you. The example I mentioned. The reason why that one was the one I mentioned is because I experienced the women amongst themselves, female players are very supportive of each other. I'm not saying that's an issue, but this was about allocating resources. And the fact, I don't think she actually meant to say what she said. I don't think she thought it through. It's just that it's an inherited attitude, a cultural thing that has just become a truth. And we have to change that. And that takes time. That was more my point in that case. Yeah.
Yes. And here I would like to stress another important point, that there are, because I don't want to make it sound like men are like making some troubles to us. On the contrary, there are big majority of men in chess are very nice, very respecting. You know, this is not, we are now discussing really small percentage, yes, of behavior. This must be recognized because otherwise we would be very unfair to chess community as a whole. Yes, so we are now discussing really rare occasions, small percentage, but this must be addressed so the victims can feel safe, and they need to feel that they are supported and somebody is, you know, on their side. So now I would like to ask Marco to explain more about the topic, so we are even better educated what is, you know, accepted and what is not.
Thank you, Eva. Let me start my presentation. Can you see it? Okay.
Yes.
So before starting with the presentation, I would like to explain how this was created, because it started from a phone call between Eva and me when we were wondering how we can deal with such cases in FIDE, because we all know that in the majority of the countries, certain behaviors are, of course, prohibited. They are considered felonies. But what to do within the system? Because how can we accept that some kind of unacceptable behaviors would maybe prosecuted outside of the chess community and they would lead to no consequences inside the chess community? And that is the, let's say, topic that I started working on and that led to this presentation. So the first thing that we have to understand is that we are a worldwide community, so we have to deal with different legal systems, and any national legal system has a different way to treat similar cases. So the same factual circumstance can be a felony in one country, cannot be a felony in another country, or can be treated with different penalties of different levels of severity in different countries. So can you imagine that if we are playing a tournament in a country, then some kind of behaviors would be treated like severe felonies, and if we go to another country, of course I'm not speaking about extreme cases, but let's say soft way of harassments would be treated as a felony in a country, and we go to another country where they are not felonies at all. So how can we protect people with such differences still existing in different parts of the world? The point is that we are a legal system as well. We are a separated legal system because sport as either our self-standing system with our internal legal order, which means that we have our specific internal felonies that any normal legal system doesn't consider even an infringement, like cheating to arrange the result of a game. Normally for a legal system is not anything irrelevant. But if we go into chess, then cheating is, of course, considered, let's say, criminal, either for any national legal system, either for our internal order. That's the point that we have started from. So it means that we will pursue a specific infringement according to our internal rules and with our procedure. This doesn't mean, of course, that the legal system, the national legal system, would not be interested of this, or that the things will be mutually excluding. It just means that the same fact will lead to two different procedures and possibly even two different results. But of course, it starts from the victim. If the victim himself or herself doesn't report it to the legal system, to feed it to our community, then there will be no way to pursue this fact. What I have told you stays in Article 11.10c of our Code of Ethics that I have reported here, and substantially it says that the code is not replacing any national law. It is just the internal justice that is based on it. So whatever is reported to the internal justice will follow its way, and it will not interfering with the national justice. Maybe they will cooperate. It happens, at least according to the Italian law, what is collected inside a sport trial can be used also in the regular justice as evidence. So they might cooperate, but never excluding one another. Clear that we have the authority to pursue such cases. Now we have to understand what is prohibited, what can be considered a felony inside our system. So basically, what do we call harassment? Because you can put the same question to 10 different people and get 10 different explanations. Or maybe you can enter in some specific question like if someone reports that she was victim of something, I have been harassed. What exactly happened? I have quoted here a famous part of judgment. It's Jacobellis versus Ohio, when there was a problem to define what is pornography. And the justice said that I don't have a clear definition of it, but I know it when I see it. And this is exactly our case, because we don't have an all-inclusive definition of harassment. We have some specific definitions of sexual harassment, racial harassment, working harassment. So they are, let's say, sectorial definitions, but we don't have anything global. And if we don't have any specific global rule prohibiting this, then we can also not pursue it. So what we need is to find in our system a comprehensive definition that will be the basis on what we can report the fact and we can possibly pursue it. I tried to reconstruct a possible worldwide definition starting on international conventions, international law, and what I have found is that most of them are based on labor law, because the first protections started from women in working environment after the Second World War. So whatever is related to harassment after the Second World War comes from international conventions regarding labor law. For example, here you see the General Recommendation 19 of the CEDAW Convention, which is Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Since, as we have said at the beginning, harassment is a consequence of a mental attitude of discrimination. And as you see, the definition is almost similar to what Kristine said, is unwelcome sexually determined behavior. And then there are some examples of physical contact, colored remarks, showing pornography, or demanding some kind of sex-related acts. Why it is discriminatory? It is discriminatory when there is a reasonable ground to believe that if someone objects to this kind of attention, then it will lead to a disadvantage. I mean, in the moment that there will be a refusal, this refusal will be used against the person who is refusing it. This is the basic definition of discrimination, that you are in such a position that you cannot refuse an attention because you will suffer a negative consequence. Another similar definition you can find in this directive 2002/73 of the European Parliament and the Council, which is from 2002, there are several different examples, as you see, distinguished in verbal, non-verbal, and physical. But the key concept is, again, is that there is something which is unilaterally proposed, being it unwelcome. It starts from the point of view that I can propose something regardless that if it will be welcome or not. And if it will be welcome, then there will be, of course, no consequences. But if it will be unwelcome, then there will be, again, some negative input starting from me and directed to the victim. The same you can find in the United States Civil Rights Act. It is a law from the 60s. If I remember correctly, it's 1964, which is immediately after the World War. And again, it relates to some submission of the victim, which means that, again, what we focus about is not the act itself, which can has different shapes, but the mental attitude which is behind it. This found very clear, let's say, statements from the case law of International Court of Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, which I would like to emphasize is not a European Union body. They are distinguished. The European Court of Human Rights is a body created by the CEDU Convention, which is the European Convention of Human Rights. It is now accepted as a part of the European law, but it started separately. In this famous case, 33401/2002, Opus against Turkey, the court considered that the violence suffered by the applicant may be regarded on a gender-based violence, which is a form of discrimination against women. The conclusion of the court is that any kind of gender-based violence is a violation of Article 14, 2, and 3 of the Convention. So we start to have a definition of what are the values hit by any kind of gender violence or harassment. We are hitting some basic rights, like prohibition of discrimination, life, and inhuman and degrading treatment. This will be very helpful, as you will see in the following, because it gives us the base on why some kind of behaviors are prohibited, because they are infringing some specific rights that every human being, as a human being, has in every legal system. Another important statement comes from ZAC against Poland, 5410/2003, regarding Article 8 of the European Convention, which is the right to respect the personal private dimension, private life. Says that if there is a break to physical and mental integrity, then this is a break also to the personal life of a person, which means that we are accepting a broader idea of personal life, including also physical and mental integrity. And as we know, the first damage that acts of harassment are doing, if not physical, are to the mental integrity of the victim. Again, in Đurđević against Croatia, 52442 of 2009, there was even a clearer statement from the court. The violation of physical integrity constitutes an interference with private life. So through these statements from the European Court of Human Rights, we have a way to connect directly acts of harassment or acts of violence directly to the infringement of human rights, human dignity, which means that in almost all national legal system, they find a punishment. And also in our chess community, in our legal system, we'll find a penalty, because we have some specific laws and rules protecting human dignity within the chess community. This is another very important remark that I found in the British Journal of Sport Medicine, and it is from a very important article about sexual abuse in sport, which gives us, again, the way to connect whatever is connected with the harassment and sexual abuse to the dimension of human dignity. If you read the whole article, it's very interesting. There is also an interview where the person explains that basically the reason why certain acts are carried out against women in some sports environment, which you can, without any doubt, call toxic, as Kristine explained us, is that in some sports, the woman is not considered a proper human being. You just consider her a middle chain with different animals. It was very irritating statement, but this man was being interviewed after being in jail. So it was kind of, let's say, confession of his sins in the past. And you immediately understand why it is important to recognize this to human dignity. Because if we are not able to start from emphasizing the point that the personal integrity, the mental integrity, the right not to be harassed is not connected to law protection, is connected to being a human, then we cannot proceed in finding what are the values we want to protect. See, I have quoted some possible sophisticated cases to exactly answer to the question I was putting at the beginning. What do we consider harassment? For example, this second line telling the woman that they play better when they are happily married or with the male, accompanied by the male friend. You would consider maybe in some environment like a sort of nasty joke, but in fact it is not, because it is clear demonstration of this different idea of the substance of the person you have in front, to whom you are speaking to. But after this, let's say, we have reconstructed a sort of sociological definition of what we know being harassment, we have to deal with one principle of any legal system, that we cannot impose a penalty if we don't have a law which prohibits a behavior. In any modern legal system, you can punish a person for his behavior, for his actions, only if there is a previous rule which states that this behavior can be subject to a penalty, because it is hitting some kind of value that community considers a priority, that is not acceptable to hit it. It is called legality principle. I used the Latin locution, nulla pena sine lege. If you don't have a law penalizing it, you can't have the penalty. And this law, we cannot find outside of our system. It has to be inside. So we have to find the rule in the FIDE Code of Ethics, which is, among hyphens, our criminal code, because the code, as you see, is described in Article 11, defines some infringements of the FIDE regulations and put the relevant sanctions. Of course, since it is not a proper criminal code and it is not dealing with personal freedom, the definitions are not strict as in any criminal law. But we have some principles, and it is clearly stated that we can prosecute and we can give sanctions to someone if there is a breach of the principles. So what are our principles? Article 6 says that FIDE ethical values and principles includes a broad range. Among them we have human dignity, safety, integrity, and good faith. And the Article 6 is very important in the part 6.2, where it says that if you are not compliant with these ethical values and principles, and we will see there is a very specific definitions on what each of them consists in, then it shall constitute a breach of the Code of Ethics, and according to the level of severity, it may bring to disciplinary actions, which means a disciplinary trial at the FIDE Ethics Commission, resulting in a penalty. I am sorry for this slide being very difficult to read, but I wanted to report the whole article. It is part A, human dignity, and you see, respect is not my addition. It is exactly in the FIDE Code of Ethics. It says that members of FIDE family shall respect the right to all individuals to dignity and to be treated with respect. If you see, the prohibited behaviors include harassment, hostile and repeated act intended to isolate, ostracize a person or a group. If you remember the presentation made by Kristine, we are exactly aligned to what she was explaining to us. And in fact, most of the definitions included in the FIDE Code of Ethics are taken by the international conventions I have quoted before, especially sexual harassment, which is point G, means unwanted or unwelcome conduct or sexual nature, whether verbal or non-verbal or physical. This is coming directly from the Directive 73 I have shown you before. So we have this connection between the international convention, which are inspiring the FIDE Code of Ethics. And as we have seen in the previous slide, we now know that any kind of behavior which can be considered harassment in the definition we have given in the previous slides can be directly recollected to a violation of Article 6 of the Code of Ethics, which means it is a proper felony also within the chess community, leading to penalty, not just a disreputable behavior that we can criticize but doing nothing about. We can take proper actions against anyone who is carrying out these acts. Again, principle of safety. Everyone has the right to participate in chess in an environment that is safe. We don't admit people to be in danger for any kind of reason in chess tournaments. And when we speak about safety, we include non-discrimination and prevention of harassment and abuse. Here I have quoted again the Directive 73, because I would like to emphasize this connection that I have spoken about. You see, it is exactly the same definition we have used in point G, unwanted verbal, non-verbal, or physical conduct with the purpose to violate the dignity. If you see point G, the text is almost the same, because the compilers of the Code of Ethics, being them very expert and experienced lawmakers, were of course aware of the directive, and they took it because it was it is the broader definition we have in the international scenario of international conventions. This is a very important article I have found in the Harvard Law Review from Anita Bernstein, which is an academic about sexual harassment in the United States. Why I have quoted it? Because so far we have connected and we have seen we have a connection between sexual harassment, generic harassment, violation of human dignity. This is, let's say, a milestone about this theory. It comes from the 90s, but it was object of severe criticism in the United States. And I want just to give this information because it can trigger some interesting debate that the criticism of Professor Bernstein was, if you put any kind of harassment as a matter of human dignity, then you are somehow hiding what is the sexual dimension of the harassment, which is somehow the most important characterization of some behaviors. So according to the critic, it is a way to put it in some, let's say, less severe way. So it is important that we focus on harassment as a violation of human dignity, but I also wanted for some debating progress to let you know that there is a criticism which focuses on not forgetting that it has a more severe shadow than just human dignity. And again, going back to the Code of Ethics, right to integrity and honesty, which means that people subject to this code, who are the people subject to this code? Of course, it's the chess community. It's people participating to the chess life, not just people acting in chess tournaments, but in general in the chess community, which includes not only official events, it includes also unofficial events, life in the club and similar, whatever is connected to the chess family. They have to show utmost integrity and honesty. And finally, faith, which is again connected to our topic, because every individual have duties, and among their duties there are the duties to never abuse and always avoid situation where they can be dealing with the minors. Why I quote minors? Because I know that our main topic is about human, but they are related. Where we have violence against women, at least I can say from my experience in family court, there are also episodes of violence against minors. So we should treat them as different shadows, different parts of the same medal, let's call it. And finally, Article 7 gives us the general duty to comply with FIDE principles. We have some fundamental principles that FIDE follows, that FIDE considers a priority, that are very important for our family. Non-compliance with the above mentioned principles is a breach of our ethic code. So what we have said about harassment constituting a breach to human dignity, to the principle of integrity, to the right of a safe environment, to the duty to behave in honest way, in a good faith way, directly breaks Article 7.1 and 7.2 of the FIDE Code of Ethics and leads to remedial actions, meaning actions from the Ethics Commission. And among the FIDE principles, we see another link to our basic idea of human dignity, that FIDE is committed to respect internationally recognized human rights. This is a very important statement because it gives us a direct link to the European Convention of Human Rights, which is an international convention, international treaty. So it is somehow, we say that through these norms, the international convention are incorporated in our set of values. And again, 4.4, we reject any kind of discrimination, So including the one based on gender and including the one based on sexual orientation, which are directly connected to our topic. Through these important articles, we incorporate what we have said in the first 10 slides, let's say, about harassment as a violation of human dignity as carried out per the European Convention on Human Rights. Aside to these principles, we have specific felonies. I mean, the Article 11.9, to be precise, of the Code of Ethics, we have some kind of specific behaviors that can be sanctioned, not without any link to external rules, external laws, external reference, but just because of what they are. Misbehavior of personal network, which is generally unacceptable. Acts of misbehavior, including abusive, violent conduct, unjustified interferences, and other, let's say, general behaviors which are considered socially wrong, are connected to a specific offense. And the same abuse and obscenity, attempt to undermine the honor, and of course, complicity, because if there is someone who is acting directly and someone who is participating to these actions, there must be some rule that allow us to punish both of them. And this is what I have found out. I am leaving here the references of my research. So you see European Convention of Human Rights, the United States Civil Rights Act, the CEDAW, and Directive 73, which are the external laws that are incorporated in our values through the Article 4 that I have quoted in the FIDE Charter and FIDE Code of Ethics. I also suggest you to read these very interesting researches. One is from Salomea Zaksaite, who is a member of our chess community, Sexual Harassment and Abuse in Sport. It's a contribution in an international conference. And Professor Shinohara, Physical and Sexual Abuse Against Young Athletes in Sport in light of Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights. That's what we discussed beforehand. And it is International Sport Law Journal 2022. It's very new article. And I am finished, but I will be happy if there is any question.
Thank you, Marco, very much. It was really insightful, and also it shows how the topic is really complicated and that we have a lot of work to do to educate the chess community and the public. So hopefully this is a start, and we'll need many more sessions so we can spread the word also elsewhere. Kristine, now I give Kristine the word.
Thank you. I'm very happy to see that we have such extensive rules regarding this issue, which actually should make us very well amped at dealing with it. So what I'm wondering is, because we have all these rules and regulations that are very well defined and very well anchored in international law, is do we get a lot of complaints, shall we put it that way, to the ethics committee? And if we have a lot of complaints, how many of these actually end up in real action? Because that we have the rules, how do we use them?
here I would like to give the word to Christelle Hafstad, who is our secretary for FIDE Commission for Women's Chess, and she is equipped with all the answers, hopefully. And if not, we will search for the answer after this session. So Christelle, please.
Well, to try and answer your question, Kristine, it's a really good question. I've had that one myself. We've at the Women's Commission, we've basically done some research to find out exactly what the procedures are to report cases and to look at the process. Now, Marco explained that kind of the FIDE ethics and disciplinary code was something that was finalized in 2022. So the process that we're explaining at the moment was kind of defined in a clear way just recently. So we haven't received as from the Women's Commission any reports as of yet because of this situation. But we can do further investigations with the Ethics Commission, who we're working with in close collaboration to find out if there has been cases reported in the past and how those were basically treated. But what I can talk about a little bit is about what we have established as a process in cooperation with the Ethics Commission to make it easier or maybe more clear to report cases. So I will maybe share a slide if that's okay. Let me see, share screen. So, and as Marco said, that for FIDE to be able to take action under the breaches of the code, of the ethics code, we obviously need for the reports or for cases or breaches to be reported to FIDE. And I must stress, and something that Kristine, you mentioned, that it doesn't have to be illegal in your home country to be reported. You know, it has to be a violation according to the, you know, ethics codes that has been established by FIDE for action to be taken by FIDE. So I think in a lot of cases, people say, well, it's not illegal, but it is harassment. So therefore I can't really report it. But that's really not the case. So we just want to make that clear. And we, you know, so we, over the last couple of months, we've worked closely with the FIDE Ethics Commission to try and establish a process to make it a little bit easier for women and for others to report cases. And so we have established, or we're setting up a template report to make sure that all the evidence and all the information is collected in one go, and that the case is submitted according to a certain violation of the FIDE ethics code. So we at the Women's Commission are ready to help to make sure that these reports are complete so that the cases can be processed through the Ethics Commission, who is kind of the third party in this and outside party to you know the event. So it can be considered as kind of the ombudsman within FIDE. So we could help those that have been cases prepare such a report, and we will aim to you know with this report, and also you know with our communications, clarify the process that is available within FIDE. And as you said, Kristine, a lot of times it is not clear to people that such a process exists, you know, within FIDE, within the Norwegian Federation, but we want to make it clear that there is a process that exists. And with the FIDE Women's Commission, we have a report, a template of a report that we're establishing so that all information can be collected. So how, you know, just a simple step-by-step, how could we, you know, somebody report a case to FIDE? We're going to relaunch our webpage very shortly, And on that web page, there will be a link to download a report and then you can basically fill out this report, attach all the evidence that you have, and sign this report. And then we, at the FIDE Women's Commission, will review that with the one submitting the report to make sure that everything is correct and filled out. And we're going to try to put some timeline on this, but just to give a sense. And you know, these timelines are obviously not non-binding, but and each case is different. But we would try to process such the initial report for completeness in approximately 7 days. And after that, we would you know, submit that report to the FIDE Ethics Commission. We would take about again 7 days, 7 working days to review it. And then they would basically you know, push it through their committee, and a full review would take approximately 45 days, and various actions from that will basically be taken. So that's kind of a quick review of the work we're doing at the Women's Commission to try and publicize and help to report cases.
Thank you, Christelle. I would like to also add that this process which we are preparing is additional to the process which is already existing within FIDE. Anybody can report or send a complaint to Ethics and Disciplinary Commission through FIDE Secretariat. So there is a way to report, but our commission would like to facilitate reporting for women who are maybe more comfortable coming to us instead in the first place. Because harassment and the topic which we are discussing today is not only related to women, obviously. Men can be harassed too. They can be also subjected to mistreatment, and they can also file the complaint. But our commission would like to, because we are here mostly for women and this is our job, we would like to facilitate this particular process for women, and that's why we are preparing additional way to send a complaint through us. And we have here a question from anonymous attendee. How do you treat complaints of harassment submitted by weaker players against top class players? Unfortunately, yes, this is a topic which you know, we hear sometimes that it is happening, and I would just say the same, that the process is open to all. It doesn't matter the strength of the player, it doesn't matter background, wealth, and so on. Yes, it's anybody can file a complaint if it's valid. Yeah, Kristine?
Yeah, absolutely. As it is with us, you file the complaint because you have a complaint to file, and it will have to be gone through. And this issue with a weaker player towards a stronger player, it's the issue I've sort of felt here is that it's some people are worried about people putting in false complaints to gain an advantage of some sort that has nothing to do with actual harassment. But the point is, when complaint is lodged, you go through it and you look at it, and you have to look at the evidence, and you go through, as you said, the validity of the claim. And this issue is not unknown or unheard of, and the people who are dealing with these complaints are experienced people. They have to be, and so you go through them. But if you have been subjected to harassment by a stronger player than yourself, the fact that that person is a stronger player does not give the offender an advantage. The behavior is unacceptable and will be dealt with.
Exactly. And what we should add that unfortunately these cases are often difficult to prove, and it must be considered that whoever is evaluating the situation needs to work only with evidence. So unfortunately, sometimes victims cannot get the justice they deserve because of lack of evidence, but we are doing our best, and this is very much similar to the justice system. Yes, it's sometimes criminals go unpunished, and sometimes the wrong person gets caught. Yes, unfortunately, this is like human nature, and nothing to do with it. But as much as we can, and as much as FIDE can, they will investigate, they will take action to the best of our abilities. So yeah. Kristine?
I'm sorry, I'm feeling like I'm pestering you now, but with the list that you provided now about the process for lodging a complaint with the Women's Commission, I stumbled on one of the first points where it says that you download a form, you fill it out, you sign it, you attach evidence, and you send it back. And when it comes to harassment that is provable, when it comes to harassment that is clear-cut, that is fine. But what about harassment that is, I have been treated badly, nobody overheard it? Me, if this was me, I wouldn't try even to lodge that, because it states so clearly that you need evidence. And the question I feel maybe should be addressed a little bit is, do you want the kind of reports that I would be able to give? This person treated me badly, not because you could, as you said, on the lack of evidence, you can't actually take action at the other end because you can't prove it, but just actually contacting this person and talking to them and say, we've got a complaint against you, how do you react? That could be preventive as well, and create awareness. Oh, was that wrong of me to do it? That I didn't understand, or I didn't mean to, and just to put some pressure on the fact that your behavior is being noticed and asked about. So you can't prove it, but would it still have a value to lodge a complaint if all that happened was that conversation? That might have, yeah. So I just wondered.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Kristine. And the way I see it, even complaints which are not possible to prove, in my opinion, should be submitted, because for two reasons. First, the Ethics and Disciplinary Commission can contact the person, and he might even admit to behaving badly, in a perfect world, and feel sorry and so on. But more importantly, if we get similar complaints about the same person, then there is indication that something might be wrong, right? So long term, even if right away nothing will happen, but in the long run, it can help some of the victims, and some of the victims might be able in the future bring the proof. And if there is some previous evidence, then it might help. So do we have any other questions, perhaps?
If I just might add, Kristine, to what you were mentioning, in the report, fill out a report and so forth, that is to lodge mainly a claim, is to start a complaint. And the evidence is whatever you have. So it doesn't need to be that there's a third party witness. Now, if there's severe cases where other parties has seen that type of behavior, so it's important to obviously include it, but to basically put in a complaint or a case against the rules, or breach of rules from the FIDE Ethics and Disciplinary Code, you don't need to provide third party evidence to the report. So the report is to collect as much information as possible and to make sure that whoever's has this report or is filing this report has a clear breach according to certain criteria under the FIDE ethics code, because you can't file a violation if you don't have a proper violation against the code. So just to clarify that.
My point was more than lodging a complaint is for many people a difficult step to take, to choose to take. And I would think that it would be a point to lower that threshold, to make it easier to report, even though your complaint is not followed up by action because, as you said, lack of evidence. But when the text and the communication out to women in general is that put in this, put in proof, it increases the threshold more than it lowers it. So we should have a discussion on what kind of complaints do we want and how do we communicate about the possibility of lodging complaints, because that communication is really important if you actually want to catch as many complaints as possible, if that is the purpose of the system. So it was more of a, how do we actually communicate this? Like where I sit, we have a very odd system when it comes to our members lists. My office can't, normally it's not done that you contact individual members. You contact the clubs, you contact the boards, you contact areas, but you don't contact members directly with information. So for me to send out the general information to all the women in my club, my system allows it, but it's not done. It's not the culture. It is considered bothering our members with unnecessary information, if you know what I mean. It's spam, basically. And for us to be able to actually communicate with our female members about the possibility, or any members, of lodging complaints in our new system, the platform I told you about, we would need to send a message to them individually. But we have clubs that won't put in their members' email addresses in the system because they don't want us contacting them directly. There's an odd wall where the clubs own their members and not the federation as such. And we have to do something about that, of course. But how do you, in FIDE, contact the women? Because when you send a message to the Norwegian Federation, it might go out to the clubs, but it won't go to individual members, ever. So I'm just, how do we communicate this?
Do you want to take that one, Eva, or do you want me to go for it?
Well, I understand. So again, if we talk about this message of harassment, then there is this procedure. If you write to FIDE Secretariat, they will forward it to the appropriate people. But Kristine, yes, maybe you want to add more, because yeah, please go ahead.
With regards to passing on the message and kind of explaining what we're doing at the FIDE Women's Commission, we basically created a network of women across the globe, and a number of them are on this exchange forum. So, and this is an opt-in type of system. And this has really helped us in communicating our messages and creating kind of the exchange that we need to, to target, or to basically send a message to those that want to receive the message, not just a broad base. So I think we've got a good system in place. Our kind of network is growing by the day, and we're very pleased with that. And we're using that as a communication channels to unite kind of our efforts globally. So I think I think we've made some good progress on that, and that was very important for us for the Year of the Woman in chess.
Yeah, thank you, Kristine. We have a participant who raised hand for some time by now. So Susan, please, are you with us? Susan, can you talk, or do we need to give her permission?
I think that we should give her some kind of permission
to talk,
to register as spectator.
Just a second. Yeah. So Susan is asking for permission to speak.
She has
talk.
actually there.
She does?
Hello.
Oh. Hi. Here we are.
Hello.
Hi. Yes. Okay. Thank you for the permission, Eva. I was speaking to myself. I just realized that. So thank you, Kristine, and thank you, Marco, for the presentation. I think this I put in the chat that this is a very, very important session for the women and girls and for the rest of the chess community out there. I must say that I am one of those that advocated for FIDE, to take sexual harassment as key if we are to increase, to continue increasing our numbers, especially as far as girls and women are concerned. Because I realized most of the cases remain, unreported for the reason that maybe the women and the girls are not confident as to whether when they report, an action is going to be taken, but also as a result of not knowing what is it that FIDE has in place, when it comes to sexual harassment issues. And so I think this is a good start, really, I must say, and I like to commend you, Eva, Christian team, for taking, this bold step to start this process and making sure that, the chess community will start now, understanding and knowing these issues. I'm happy that you're already talking of awareness, and I think I saw a chat from one of the members that said in Sweden they have a newsletter that can be used as a communication, because we need this, a lot for all the federations to know that all these the legal perspective of things from FIDE that are available in FIDE. How many people out there don't know? I must say that some of the things that I've heard on this discussion are things that I didn't know before, and I'm thinking there are a lot of women and girls, and as well as the men, because sometimes even the men as perpetrators, probably there's some that are doing it not knowing that this can offend and can be a problem. And so it is important for them to know from all angles, so that they also don't become victims, probably that they were doing something not out of malice or out of just to offend a woman or a girl. But so the education would really help a lot. So I really wanted to commend you for all this, for all this work and the start. And I think this will go a long way. Let's push this, forward. If we can have, this trickling down to the federation, so that everyone knows there's this. What is FIDE's take when it comes to these issues? What are the legal implications? What's there? And I think this will help a lot for us to increase our chess agenda, and make chess inclusive at all levels, and also not to have these cases where women and girls are failing or don't have a platform for them to report, cases when they feel like they have been victimized or harassed somehow. So thank you. That's my small contribution to the meeting.
Thank you, Susan, for these nice words. I just want to also stress that FIDE has a process in place. Our aim here is to make it, to spread awareness about it, so people know. This is the first step, and we will need more such sessions and different discussions, so people get familiar with the process. They become confident to use it, and so our community can move to even higher level, and those small percentage of people who are causing troubles will be either eliminated or downplayed, you know, for the future. And there are also some, like Susan mentioned correctly, who are not even aware that their behavior affects others negatively, and they can change their behavior with our help. Yes, with this kind of education. I see that we also have another question: what measures are put in place when complaint involves interracial matters, and if there is equal treatment for different races? This goes without saying. This is like fundamental, basic thing in FIDE, and also what Marco was explaining. So there is absolutely no questions that all the people are treated equally in this matter, no matter not only race, but nationality, religion, political opinions, and so on. They don't matter. Yes, we are all equal human beings, and as such, the matters will be treated. But again, sometimes, as I mentioned, the question is evidence. Somebody might feel that he's treated not fairly, but sometimes due to lack of evidence, other outcome is not possible, because these cases we all know that are difficult to prove sometimes, but it's always good to file the complaint. It might help at later stage in the process when more victims come forward, you know, because behavior of people, it's usually a pattern. It doesn't happen randomly one time. It continues most likely. So Kristine?
From FIDE's perspective, which is a global organization, the matter of race should be, as you say, a bit moot. That shouldn't be an issue. But from a Norwegian perspective, where we are, that is also true. We, of course, race is not something that gives an advantage either way, but in Norway, if the complaint, the offender is of ethnic Norwegian heritage, and the complaint, the offended isn't, that complaint will be handled probably more carefully than if both were Norwegian or the other way around, simply because they represent a minority in Norway, and you treat that with care. So if anything, if the complaintee, the person lodging a complaint, is from a minority background in Norway, that complaint towards somebody who isn't in a minority group would be probably treated more carefully than otherwise, which is, it would be, yeah. I'm not saying that it would be treated better. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you would make sure you knew what you were doing because it's touchy. And as I said, in Norway, that's how that would go. So yeah, race would not be a disadvantage where we are. But that is, as I said, we have very strict equal rights laws in Norway that ensure this.
Yeah, Kristine, that's so good to hear, and that's why I also pick your federation to be a host in this matter, because you are so much more advanced than other countries. So you are like leading example for the rest of us. So thank you so much for sharing all these opinions and experience, and a very nice presentation you prepared. It was really good to listen to.
Well, thank you for that. But I would be careful about saying we're more advanced. We're just people. But we have very secure laws that we do have that are, as I said. So the fight in Norway when it comes to equal rights is not actually about the rights, because we do have equal legal rights regardless of background or whatever. The fight we have now is more the fight for dignity, as we've been talking about, that level of it, because you have to have the legal rights first. That has to be in place before you can actually tackle that type of fight. So we're there, yes. So we probably, maybe for a lot of countries, we have shifted. It is one of the reasons we are amongst the top 5 when it comes to equality. But we have a long way to go. So it's still, we're not there yet. As I said, equal pay is not in place, amongst other things. So we are still working on it, but our laws are quite good.
Yes, and if we
gives, if I may, Kristine,
yes, go ahead.
Get the possibility to make a remark, which is important in my opinion. Any system, even the best one, can work badly if the people inside it are not working in the proper way. Because we can prepare the best possible rules, we can have the best possible laws, but then at the end of the day, is up to people to enforce them. So we have, let's say, an issue regarding the people who have to enforce them. And we also have to consider that either the victims are people and they can be intimidated to the idea of lodging complaints and enter in a sort of machine that at the end can result in giving to them more damages than to the offender himself. Because starting a public investigation, starting a trial, starting a procedure in this specific topic can be more harmful for the victim than for the offender, especially if at the end the offender is found not guilty because of lack of evidence. So in some cases, there are some paradox effects where the trial, if it ends with acquitting the offender, gives him
I guess we lost Marco. Maybe he lost connection. Yeah. So Marco, from his professional point of view, yes, this is another issue, and this is also why the topic is so sensitive and so difficult. You know, like I was suggesting to file the complaint because for the future cases, but Marco also points out that the victims must also consider their own emotional safety and how possible negative outcome can influence them. On the other hand, the process is confidential, so still it's very traumatizing for the victim to go through it if the outcome is not what the victim expects. So this topic is very important, and I'm happy that we started discussions, and we hope that this will be the first stepping stone for future education in chess community and for future discussions, so we can move forward and we can improve our behavior and eliminate those fortunately rare cases when people mistreat each other. So unless there are more questions, I would like to thank all participants, also those who watch us in streaming. And I would very much like to thank everybody who contributed with presentation, with thoughts, with ideas to this forum. And Marco is back, so he can maybe finish his.
I'm sorry, I had an internet issue. So I was saying that in some situations, lodging the complaint can even have a paradox effect in case the offender is found not guilty for lack of evidences. So here, the human factor is, let's say, crucial, and I think it's let's say the primary mission of the Human Commission here would be to build a protection network around the victims so that they feel them protected while lodging the complaint, and also they feel them protected in the community to avoid secondary victimization. This is one of the most important factors in the decision of the person to lodge a complaint or not, the one to be a possible secondary victimization target.
So any final words from our guests before we say goodbye? Kristine, maybe a few words at the end.
Yes. I would like to thank you all for inviting me to attend this. I am new in the chess world as such. I've just been in my seat, as it were, for half a month now, although I started the overlap on the 1st of May, so I've been there for a bit longer than that, and I've been in the community for a little bit. So I have a rather interesting job. And for me, women's rights and increasing the number of women participating in chess and having chess as a safe place to meet others and battle with wits, as it were. It's one of my, well, not pet peeves, it's one of my, the issues I support. It's important to me. I have been welcomed very well as a woman in this community. And I am hoping to be able to help the situation that we've been talking about today, creating awareness and creating safe spaces. That's one of the issues, and that's not just for women. Of course, I want that to be true of all our chess players. But being a woman myself and knowing a little bit about how harassment affects people, it's an important issue to me. So I'm very happy to be invited to participate here today, and I would thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Christelle. It's good, Kristine. It's good to hear that you feel welcome in chess community, and I think that is a great contribution that you have some experience outside chess, so you can bring some new ideas, and help us improve our our society. So we are excited to have you here, and I wish you also good luck in your work, and I hope you will accommodate even more and more as time passes, and we cooperate also in the future, hopefully. I want to thank Marco for really preparing a great presentation, and Chess24, who are our partners in crime here, and they provide great support whenever we need, and we have already ongoing cooperation, and I'm really thankful for that. So. And of course, Christelle, who is Secretary of Commission for Women's Chess, and without her, our commission couldn't work as it is, and she's doing tremendous job helping with everything. And of course, I would like to thank participants for joining, for their questions, for their interest. And please spread the word and educate your friends and public about the procedure we have in FIDE. And we are looking forward to see you again in similar discussions in the future.
Thank you, Eva.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Kristelle, and your team for the invitation and for the great work.
Bye.